This is the Staccato XC. This is my most recent stop in this Compt 2011 misadventure. I picked this up while my Sand Hawk was away getting repairs. If you haven't seen the video on that, it's a bit of a roller coaster. But I had to send the gun off for about a month or so, and during that time I picked up this. I waited like 18 months for the Nighthawk. This showed up in a week or two. I got it on the recommendation of a friend who's been using hers competitively for the last couple years.
Compensator.
Oh, $4,000 gun doesn't work.
She recommended it to me. I had a Staccato P that I liked quite a bit. It remains and probably will remain my favorite handgun of all time, but I did have to sell it for this. So we have this here now. I've been using it for a while, and this may be a first for me. I don't think I have any serious complaints. This has been, I don't want to say flawless, but just very good since I've had it. And it's comparable to the Nighthawk. And my initial idea was I would get it as a point of comparison because I'd shot these before, but not extensively. And so now having quite a bit of time on it, I feel like I'm better equipped to draw the comparison. It definitely has some advantages over the Nighthawk, and it has its disadvantages as well. But in terms of the gun itself as a whole, I would say this is a very safe bet. This has been nearly perfect for me. And it's different from the P. I got mine before they started doing this grip. I had that really awful staccato grip where it was like extruded letters in the grip, and now they're just doing this kind of sandpaper feel. This, of all the polymer grips I've used in my life, I think this is probably one of my favorite textures. It's not too much, but it's not too little. I don't know how well that comes across in the camera, but I am really happy with this for a polymer grip. And I'm not super keen on the polymer grips for like a premium 2011, but it does make the gun lighter. I think if you were doing something that required you to have some lighter guns, like if you wanted to run Mammoth or something, you might be able to get away with it with something like this rather than the Nighthawk. Now the weight difference isn't enormous. I want to say this empty was 2 pounds 10 ounces or something, and then this was only a few ounces heavier. It feels heavier and it feels front heavy compared to the XC, but this is maybe balanced a bit better. I'm not really sure how to quantify that. In terms of shooting experience, it shoots just slightly, I would say it recoils just slightly more than the Nighthawk, and I make sure to let my friends shoot them as a comparison to gather their opinions. Most people agree that the Nighthawk is slightly flatter, but we're really splitting hairs. In terms of the way it's shot since I got it, right off the bat, my friend recommended, she said, get the Atlas springs in the 8, 9, and 10 pound weight because this comes with a 7. And she was so certain about that I ordered them. They were here before the gun showed up, and I swapped in the 8 before I shot it with the 7, which in terms of like trying to do an accurate review probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I put the 8 in right off the bat. The first 100 rounds or so, I was having failures to feed, okay? So I'd shoot, eject a round successfully. It would start to put that next round into the chamber. It would get halfway in and then stop. And that was the first 100 rounds or so. Since that time, it has been perfectly reliable, okay? Not a single stoppage in the over 1,000 rounds since then, which is a far cry from my Nighthawk experience. And I have to do a follow-up on the Nighthawk. It came back with a ton of work done to it, and it's a totally different gun. But, you know, that can be later. This, on its own, in comparison, I would recommend, if you're looking at either of these two guns, I would strongly recommend you go with this over the Nighthawk, purely because I would have a high degree of confidence compared to the Nighthawk that yours will show up just fine and work, which is the most important thing, in my opinion. Now, the things I don't like about it in comparison, primarily, it's going to be that polymer grip, but also it's going to be the deck height for your optics and the fact that this isn't compatible with the Romeo enclosed optic that I have on the Sand Hawk. I've really come to appreciate this optic, and I've been beating the crap out of it. And as mistrustful as I am of Sig, this on this gun works tremendously well. So the deck height is very low. The optic itself is quite small, and it's been working perfectly for me, and you can't put this on an XC. The XC, so the standard pattern without a plate is the Delta Point Pro, and it comes with this little doodad here. This is a rear sight that interfaces with the Delta Point Pro as far as I know, and it comes out of the package with that. But if you try to mount the Romeo using the Delta Point Pro footprint, because ostensibly they share a footprint, you can't get the angle or the height correct on the XC. And there's some, I kind of made it work a little bit, but I was running out of elevation adjustment. You could probably shim it. It's basically just not worth doing, in my opinion. And so one of my favorite things about the Nighthawk in comparison is just how I can use this optic like very easily. And it's not going to be an option for the XC. So I have the acro on here, which I've really come to dislike. This is not my first acro, and it's not my first acro to fail. So this one has bits of, I assume, glue or other material floating around in the front, like lens housing area, that under recoil it shakes them up onto the lens, and they appear randomly and disrupt. For whatever reason, they always seem to pop up right where the dot is. But I've started to discard these. I'm thinking about going something like the Steiner instead. But other than the polymer grip and the fact that I can't get the optic I want on here, it is the perfect comp to 2011, I think. It's been perfectly reliable. It shoots extremely well. I opted for the heavier trigger on this. It feels just like my P, which is what I wanted. There's a bit more over travel than I would prefer, but this is, I mean, so nitpicky. I did go for the aluminum trigger here to be a more direct comparison, the aluminum flat trigger. So these kind of have similar trigger profiles, and they feel similar. This is substantially lighter, especially since I got it back from Nighthawk. But I think this is just about as good as you would want it. It's not so light that I feel like it's just going to go off on its own, right? Not a complete, like, long-term review, and there's a lot of very good reviews out there, and I've watched probably most of them, and my thoughts mirror theirs, and they tend to do a better job. So you could probably search and find a million. But I have only good things to say, for the most part, about this gun. Mainly the fact that it just works. And bear in mind, I'm using that 8-pound recoil spring, and I haven't felt the need to use anything else because it's been working perfectly. And I typically shoot 115, 124, just out of the box stuff. I haven't tried this with anything super hot. I have a couple plates, and I thought this was interesting. This plate is for the XC. This plate is for the P, and they're both for the RMR. And the screw holes here are slightly different. Now, I haven't gone and tried to see if they will work together, but I'm not sure that they will. And they've done what I would consider to be an improvement here. This plate has these screws here, which allow for the rear sight to be removed. On both sides, you have a little set screw, and basically nothing I could do could get these to stay in place, no matter what, because those screws would always back off. This doesn't have that provision, and so, in theory, the sight would remain firmly attached no matter what, which I like. I think that's a better design. I don't know if that's particular to the XC or if that's a new thing that they're doing across the board, but I like that quite a bit. So I'll put in a little bit of shooting footage here if I haven't already. Big fan of this gun. This may be the first time I just genuinely like something. It shoots amazing. It's been perfectly reliable. I got it quick, and it's just been an excellent handgun, and I'm super pleased with it. I'm not sure where it's gonna land. If I'm gonna hang on to it, my friends all covet it, so I might have to give it up. But I've been enjoying going back and forth between these two guns. And I think if you were looking at a Nighthawk, I would strongly recommend you look at something like this and then find out what aftermarket grips there are if you want to go for a metal grip. And I think you'll be very pleased with this gun. The only caveat would be if you're dead set on using this optic, which I don't think anybody is except me. It's not going to work with this. I mean, it could, but you might have to do something a little funky. So I'll probably do a more direct comparison video at some point, but you can't go wrong with the XC. I really like it a lot, and I think for the first time ever, I have a purely positive recommendation.